My name is Clara, I am 30 years old, and I live in a small town near the lakeside lodge. The cold cut through my coat like a knife, but it was nothing compared to the look on my mother's face. It was Christmas Eve. The lakeside lodge was glowing with golden light. I could hear laughter inside. I could smell the roast turkey and the pine needles. My 6-year-old son, Benjamin, squeezed my hand tightly. He was shivering. He just wanted to see his cousins. He just wanted to be warm. I stepped forward, ready to walk in, but my mother didn't move aside. She stood right in the doorway, blocking the heat. She didn't look happy to see me. She looked annoyed. "Sorry, Clara," she said, her voice flat and loud enough for people behind her to hear. "Strict capacity limit this year. Fire marshal rules." I looked past her. I saw distant cousins, neighbors, even my brother's college friends holding wine glasses. The room was packed. "Mom, it's freezing," I whispered. "We drove 2 hours." "You weren't on the list," she interrupted. "Go home." And then she did the unthinkable. She closed the heavy oak door right in my face. The lock clicked. I stood there in the snow, staring at the wood, holding my crying son's hand. I didn't cry, though. That was the moment I finally understood. I wasn't their family. I was just a nuisance they had finally locked out. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Clara. I am 30 years old. I didn't look back at the door. I couldn't. If I looked back, I knew I would break down, and I refused to let them see me cry. Not tonight, not ever again. I walked down the wooden steps of the porch, careful not to slip on the ice. The air was so cold it burned my lungs, but the fire inside my chest was hotter. It was the fire of shame. It was the burning feeling of not being good enough, a feeling I had known my entire life. I squeezed Benjamin's hand. He was sniffling, trying to be brave, but I could feel him trembling through his mittens. "Mommy," he asked, his voice small and muffled by his scarf. "Did I do something bad?" My heart shattered. I stopped right there in the snow, next to our old sedan. I knelt down, ignoring the wet slush soaking into my jeans. I pulled him close, looking into his tear-filled eyes. "No, baby," I said, my voice shaking just a little. "You didn't do anything bad. You are perfect. You are the best boy in the world." "Then why can't we go in?" he asked. "Grandma said she had cookies. I saw the tree through the window." They just have too many people," I lied. "It's a safety rule, like at school when the bus is full." He nodded, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. He was 6, but he was smart. He knew that family made room for family. He knew that you don't lock people out in the snow unless you don't want them. I buckled him into his car seat in the back. I turned up the heat as high as it would go, blasting the vents to warm his frozen fingers. Then I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I stared at the glowing windows of the lodge. My parents' lodge. This wasn't new. That was the saddest part. This rejection wasn't a surprise. It was just the loudest version of a song I had been hearing since I was born. I was the other child, the extra one, the girl who happened to be born 3 years after Tyler. Tyler, my brother, the golden boy. From the time we were kids, the difference was clear. Tyler was the sun, and I was just a shadow on the wall. If Tyler got a C on a report card, my parents hired expensive tutors and blamed the teacher for being too hard. If I got straight A's, they just nodded and said, "That's expected." I remembered Christmas mornings from 20 years ago. Tyler would come downstairs to find a new bike, a gaming console, a pile of boxes wrapped in shiny gold paper. I would find clothes, necessary things, socks, a coat because my old one didn't fit. "Tyler needs to express himself," Mom would say when I asked why he got a guitar he never played, and I didn't get the art supplies I wanted. "You're practical, Clara. You're strong. You don't need all that fluff." Practical, that was their code word for unimportant. As we got older, the gap got wider. Tyler was wild. He crashed 3 cars in high school. My dad paid for every repair, every ticket, every increased insurance premium. "Boys will be boys," Dad would say, clapping Tyler on the shoulder. I worked. I started waitressing when I was 15 because I didn't want to ask them for money. I saved every dollar. I bought my own beat-up Honda Civic. When the transmission died, Dad told me, "You should have taken better care of it, Clara. Responsibility is a lesson you need to learn." He said that to me, the girl working double shifts, while Tyler was partying in Cancun on Dad's credit card. It hurt, God, it hurt. But I thought if I just worked harder, if I just became successful enough, they would finally see me. I thought success was the key to their love. So I built a life. I didn't ask them for a dime for college. I took out loans. I worked nights. I graduated with honors. I started my own event planning company, Clara's Occasions. I started it from my kitchen table with a laptop and a stack of flyers. I built it into the biggest event company in the county. I managed weddings, corporate galas, charity fundraisers. I made good money. I bought my own house. I raised Benjamin on my own after his father left. I did everything right. Tyler did everything wrong. He dropped out of college. He started businesses that were just scams or lazy ideas that fell apart in a month. He borrowed money from mom and dad constantly. Tens of thousands of dollars. Investments, they called them. They were donations to a black hole, but it didn't matter. To them, Tyler was the struggling genius who just needed a break. I was the cold, independent daughter who didn't need them. But I did need them. I needed them to love me. Every holiday, I tried to buy my way in. I brought the most expensive wine. I bought mom cashmere sweaters. I bought dad vintage whiskey. I hosted Easter brunch at my house and cooked for 3 days straight, making everything from scratch. They would come, eat my food, drink my wine, and spend the whole time talking about Tyler. Tyler is thinking about moving to LA, Mom would say, her eyes sparkling. He's going to be a producer. We're going to help him with the rent for the first year. That's great, I would say, forcing a smile while clearing their dirty plates. I just landed the contract for the mayor's gala. That's nice, dear, Dad would grunt, not even looking up. Pass the salt. Nice, that was all I got, but tonight was supposed to be different. This year, I had really tried. I had spent weeks helping Mom plan the menu over the phone. I had offered to pay for the floral arrangements for the lodge's Christmas party. I had sent over cases of champagne as a gift. I thought I was part of the team. I thought finally, at 30 years old, I had earned my seat at the table. I looked down at my dress. It was a beautiful, deep red velvet. I had bought it specifically for tonight because Mom said red looked festive. I had curled my hair. I had dressed Benjamin in a little suit with a bow tie because I knew Dad liked proper young men. I had done everything they asked, and they had locked me out. Capacity limit. The lie echoed in my head. I looked at the lodge again. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. I saw my cousin Sarah laughing. I saw Uncle Mike. I saw people who weren't even family, neighbors, business partners. There was no capacity limit. There was plenty of room. The lodge was massive. It had a ballroom. It had a dining hall that seated 50. There was room for everyone except me. A tear finally escaped. It rolled down my cheek hot and fast. I wiped it away angrily. Mommy, can we go home? Benjamin asked from the back seat. I'm cold. Yes, baby, I whispered. We're going home. We're going to have our own Christmas, just you and me. I put the car in gear. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to breathe. I backed out of the spot, the tires crunching on the snow. I took one last look at the house where I grew up, the house where I had spent 30 years begging to be seen. Goodbye, I said to the closed door, and I meant it. I was done. I was done trying to buy love that wasn't for sale. I was done freezing on the porch. I was driving away, and I wasn't coming back. The road away from the lodge was winding and dark. Tall pine trees blocked out the moonlight, creating a tunnel of shadows. The only light came from my headlights cutting through the falling snow. The car was silent except for the hum of the heater and the soft sound of Benjamin sniffling in the back. Mommy. Yes, Ben. Did Grandma Mary not want to see me either? The question felt like a punch to the gut. Grandma Mary. My dad's mother. She was the only one who had ever really seen me. She was the one who sent me birthday cards with $20 bills when I was a kid, whispering, "Buy something just for you, Clara." She was the one who came to my college graduation when my parents couldn't get time off work. But Grandma Mary was old now. She lived in the guest cottage behind the lodge. She didn't have much say in what my parents did. I assumed she was inside, sitting by the fire, probably wondering where we were. Or maybe they had lied to her too. Maybe they told her I was sick. Maybe they told her I was too busy to come. Grandma Mary loves you very much, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She would never turn you away. This wasn't her decision. I was about 5 miles down the road, near the highway on-ramp, when my phone buzzed in the cup holder. The screen lit up the dark car. Incoming call. Grandma Mary. My stomach dropped. I stared at the phone. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail. I didn't have the energy to lie to her. I didn't want to hear her disappointment if she thought I had just skipped the party. But it was Grandma. I couldn't ignore her. I slowed the car down and pulled onto the shoulder of the road, keeping the engine running. I took a deep breath, wiped my face, and pressed answer. Hi, Grandma, I said, forcing a cheerful tone. Merry Christmas. Clara, her voice sounded sharp, not old and frail, but sharp. Where are you? I've been looking for you for an hour. The party has started. Where is Benjamin? I bit my lip. The lie was right there on the tip of my tongue. I'm sick, Grandma. The car broke down, Grandma. It would be so easy to protect her from the truth. It would be so easy to just fade away and let them have their perfect night. But then I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw Benjamin's sad little face in the shadows. He was wiping his eyes. Why should I lie? Why should I protect the people who just humiliated my son? Clara, Grandma asked again. Answer me, child. Are you coming? I was there, Grandma, I said. My voice cracked. I couldn't help it. The truth spilled out like water breaking a dam. I was there 10 minutes ago. You were, she sounded confused. Then where are you now? I didn't see you. Mom stopped me at the door, I said. I was crying now, silent tears streaming down my face. She wouldn't let us in. There was a silence on the other end of the line, a heavy, static-filled silence. She what? Grandma's voice was very quiet, dangerous. She said there was a capacity limit, I sobbed. She said I wasn't on the list. She said the fire marshal had rules. She closed the door in my face, Grandma. She left Benjamin and me standing in the snow. I heard a sound on the other end. It sounded like a cane hitting the floor hard. She said, capacity limit, Grandma repeated. Yes. And she sent you away? Yes. And Tyler. Is Tyler here? I saw his car in the driveway, I said. His new truck. I see. The tone in Grandma Mary's voice changed. It wasn't the sweet, cookie-baking grandma voice anymore. It was the voice of the woman who had built the lakeside lodge with her bare hands 40 years ago. It was the voice of a matriarch. Clara, she said, where are you right now? I'm by the highway, I said. I'm going home. No, she said. You are not? Grandma, please, I can't go back there. I can't face them. It's too humiliating. Turn the car around, she commanded. Right now. Grandma. Clara, listen to me, she said, and her voice was like steel. You turn that car around and you drive back to my house. Do not park in the guest lot. Pull right up to the front steps. Do you hear me? But Mom said, I don't care what your mother said, Grandma snapped. This is not her house. It is my house. It is my lodge. And I will be damned if my granddaughter spends Christmas Eve in a car while that leech Tyler drinks my wine. I was stunned. I had never heard her speak about Tyler like that. She usually kept the peace. She usually stayed quiet. Turn around, Clara, she said, her voice softening just a little. Do it for Benjamin. He deserves Christmas. I looked at Benjamin in the mirror. He was looking at me, eyes wide. Who is that? He whispered. It's Grandma, I said. Is she mad? Yes, I said, but not at us. I took a deep breath. My hands were trembling, but not from cold anymore. They were trembling from adrenaline. Okay, Grandma, I said. I'm turning around. Good, she said. I'll be waiting on the porch. Keep your phone on. The line went dead. I sat there for a second, listening to the engine hum. A strange feeling washed over me. It wasn't sadness. It was fear, yes, but mixed with something else. Anticipation. Grandma Mary was up to something. I put the car in gear, checked the road, and pulled a U-turn. The headlights swept across the snow-covered pines as I swung the car back toward the lodge. Are we going back? Benjamin asked, sounding worried. Mommy, they said no. Grandma said yes, I told him, pressing my foot down on the gas. And Grandma is the boss. The drive back felt faster. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a hammer. I kept imagining my mother's face when I showed up again. She would be furious. She would make a scene. She would tell everyone I was crashing the party. But Grandma had told me to come. I pulled into the long driveway of the lakeside lodge. Cars were parked everywhere, BMWs, Mercedes, SUVs. It looked like the whole town was here. I navigated through the lot, driving past the spot where I had parked before. I drove right up to the front entrance, just like Grandma ordered. And there she was. Grandma Mary was standing on the front porch. She wasn't wearing a coat. She was wearing her velvet evening gown, leaning on her cane, standing tall against the wind. She looked like a general inspecting the troops. When she saw my car, she didn't smile. She just nodded. I put the car in park and killed the engine. I got out, my legs feeling shaky. I ran around to the back and got Benjamin out. Come on, sweetie, I said. Go to Grandma. We walked up the steps. My mother wasn't at the door anymore. The door was closed. Grandma Mary reached out and pulled Benjamin into a hug. Oh, my sweet boy, she whispered, kissing the top of his head. You're freezing, I am so sorry. Then she looked at me. Her eyes were fierce. You are trembling, Clara. I'm okay, I said, though I wasn't. You will be, she said. She turned to the big oak door. She didn't knock, she didn't ring the bell. She lifted her cane and banged the handle against the wood, then threw the door open. Come with me, she said. We walked in. The heat hit me first, smelling of cinnamon and expensive perfume. Then the noise. The lodge was full of people. Music was playing softly. People were standing in groups, holding drinks, laughing. My mother was standing near the fireplace, holding a glass of champagne, laughing at something Tyler was saying. Tyler was wearing a suit that looked new, probably paid for by Dad. When Grandma Mary walked in with me and Benjamin trailing behind her, the room didn't go silent immediately. It took a moment. People near the door stopped talking. They nudged their neighbors. The silence spread like a wave across the room until the music was the only thing we could hear. My mother turned around. Her smile dropped instantly. Her face went from flushed and happy to pale white in a second. She looked from me to Benjamin and then to Grandma Mary. Mom, she said, her voice high and tight. What are you doing? I thought you were resting in the cottage. I was, Grandma said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried across the silent room, until I got a phone call. My father stepped forward, looking nervous. Now, Mary, let's not make a scene. Clara, we told you. Quiet, Grandma Mary snapped. She didn't even look at him. She kept her eyes on my mother. She walked us right into the center of the room. She pointed to the large velvet sofa right in front of the fireplace, the seat of honor. Sit, she told me. I sat. Benjamin climbed up next to me, burying his face in my coat. My mother rushed over, dropping her voice to a furious whisper. What is this? Clara, I told you to leave. You are embarrassing us. We have guests. Yes, Grandma said loudly. We do have guests. We have a lot of guests. But strangely, we didn't have room for your own daughter, my mother flinched. It's complicated, Mom. The fire marshal. Stop lying, Grandma said. She stood in front of the fireplace, turning to face the room. She looked at the crowd. My daughter-in-law tells me there is a strict capacity limit tonight. Is that true? The guests looked uncomfortable. No one said a word. There was obviously plenty of space. She told my granddaughter, Grandma continued, that she wasn't on the list, that she had to leave. On Christmas Eve. Mom, please, my mother hissed, reaching for Grandma's arm. Not here, let's go to the kitchen. Grandma pulled her arm away. No, we are done hiding things in the kitchen. We are done with secrets. She reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out her smartphone. It was an old model, but she knew how to use it. She tapped the screen. I have a security camera on the front porch, Grandma announced to the room. I had it installed last month because of some suspicious activity I noticed around the property. I get alerts on my phone. My mother froze. Her eyes went wide with genuine panic. I watched the alert while I was getting dressed, Grandma said. I saw Clara arrive, and I saw what you did. Grandma held the phone up to the microphone stand that the band had been using. Let's all listen to the capacity limit policy, shall we? The feedback from the microphone screeched for a split second, making everyone wince. Then, the audio from the porch camera filled the room. It was crystal clear. Sorry, Clara. Strict capacity limit this year. Fire marshal rules. It was my mother's voice, cold, dismissive, then my voice sounding small and desperate. Mom, it's freezing. We drove 2 hours. Then my mother again. You weren't on the list. Go home. Then the sound of the heavy door slamming shut. And finally, the sound of Benjamin asking, Mommy, did I do something bad? Grandma Mary pulled the phone away. The silence in the lodge was heavy. It was suffocating. Every guest in the room was staring at my mother. Neighbors she had tried to impress for years looked at her with disgust. My cousin Sarah had her hand over her mouth. My mother stood there, her face bright red. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Then, she did what she always did when she was cornered. She started to cry, but these weren't real tears. I knew the difference. These were the I'm the victim tears. I was just trying to keep everyone safe. She sobbed, bringing a handkerchief to her eyes. It's so stressful hosting these events. I didn't mean it like that. Clara knows I love her. I was overwhelmed. She looked at Dad for support. Tell them, Frank, tell them how stressed I've been. Dad opened his mouth, but Grandma cut him off. Save your tears, Linda, Grandma said coldly. They don't work on me anymore. And they certainly don't work on the guests now that they've heard how you treat your own flesh and blood. It was a misunderstanding. Tyler shouted from the back, stepping forward. He held a drink in his hand, looking angry. Why are you doing this, Grandma? You're ruining the party over Clara. She's barely even family, she never comes around. I flinched. Barely even family. Grandma turned her gaze to Tyler. It was a look of pure ice. Come here, Tyler, she said. What? Come here, she commanded. Bring the silver case with you. My parents went rigid. The silver case, Mom stammered. Mom, why do you need the silver right now? We usually do a toast with grandfather's silver goblets on Christmas Eve, Grandma said pleasantly, though her eyes were hard. Go get them, Tyler. They are in the display cabinet in the hallway. Tyler didn't move. He looked at Mom. Mom looked at Dad. A silent, panicked conversation passed between the three of them. We can't, Tyler said. We lost the key. Yeah, Dad added quickly. The key is missing, we'll find it tomorrow. Is that so? Grandma said. That's strange, because the cabinet isn't locked. It's stuck, Mom shouted a little too loudly. The door is stuck. We can't open it. Grandma Mary reached into her other pocket. She pulled out a slip of paper. It was pink, a pawn shop receipt. You can't open it, Grandma said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, because there is nothing inside. The room gasped. Tyler, Grandma said, holding up the pink slip. Would you like to explain why I found this in the trash can in the office? Would you like to explain why the family silver, which has been in this lodge since 1920, is currently sitting at Quick Cash Pawn on 5th Street? I stared at my brother. His face had gone gray. I was going to get it back, Tyler stammered. It was just a loan. I had a business opportunity. I just needed liquidity for a few days. I was going to get it back next week. Liquidity, Grandma scoffed. You pawned $50,000 worth of antique silver for $4,000 cash. It was an investment, Tyler yelled. And you, Grandma turned to my parents. You knew, didn't you? My parents were silent. They looked at the floor. You knew he stole it, Grandma said. And instead of punishing him, instead of making him get it back, you decided to ban Clara from the party. She looked at me then, her eyes soft and sad. I couldn't figure out why you were so adamant about the capacity limit for Clara, Grandma said to my parents. But now I know. Clara has an eye for detail. Clara runs events. Clara would have noticed immediately that the silver was missing from the cabinet. She would have asked questions. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They didn't lock me out because they hated me. They locked me out because they were protecting him. They were protecting their thief of a son from the one person who would have caught him. I wasn't rejected because I was worthless. I was rejected because I was dangerous to their lies. You excluded her to cover up a crime, Grandma announced to the room. You chose the thief over the honest child. She crumpled the pawn ticket in her hand and threw it at Tyler's feet. Well, Grandma said, the party is over. The piece of pink paper lay on the rug like a wound. No one moved to pick it up. It was just a loan, Tyler shouted again, his voice cracking. He looked around the room, searching for an ally, but for the first time in his life, he didn't find one. The neighbors, the business partners, the distant cousins, they were all looking at him with a mix of pity and revulsion. I sat frozen on the sofa. My brain was racing, connecting dots I hadn't seen for years. The missing jewelry from Grandma's dresser 3 years ago. The break-in at the garage where only Dad's expensive tools were stolen. The time my car fund disappeared from the jar in the kitchen when I was 16. It had always been Tyler, and they had always covered for him. You knew, I whispered. My voice was quiet, but in the dead silence of the room, it sounded like a gunshot. I looked at my mother. You knew he stole Grandma's silver. My mother refused to meet my eyes. She was wringing her hands, her face blotchy and tear-stained. Clara, you don't understand the pressure he's under. He has debts, bad debts. We were just trying to help him get back on his feet before Grandma found out. So you locked me out, I said, the realization washing over me like ice water. You knew that if I came inside, I would go to the kitchen to help the caterers. You knew I would open that cabinet to get the special serving spoons. You knew I would see the empty shelves. You always have to be so Snoopy, my father muttered. I stared at him. Snoopy, Dad, I'm not Snoopy, I'm observant, I'm responsible. That's why you were afraid of me. That was the twist I never saw coming. All these years, I thought they excluded me because I wasn't good enough. I thought I was boring, unlovable, the extra child. But that wasn't it. They excluded me because I was the only adult in the room. I was the only one who didn't play their game of denial. I was the witness they couldn't afford to have. They didn't hate me because I was a failure. They feared me because I was competent. They knew I wouldn't let them sweep a $50,000 theft under the rug. Grandma Mary stepped closer to my parents. She looked smaller than them, frail and aged, but in that moment she was a giant. "You pawned my history," Grandma said to Tyler. "Those goblets were a wedding gift to my grandmother in 1920. They survived the Great Depression. They survived wars, but they couldn't survive your greed." "I can get them back," Tyler pleaded, grabbing Grandma's hand. She recoiled as if he burned her. "Grandma, please, I just need $4,000. I can get them back tomorrow. Don't ruin Christmas over some metal cups." "Some metal cups," Grandma repeated, shaking her head. "That is all you see, money, objects. You don't see the legacy, you don't see the trust." She turned to the guests. "I apologize to everyone," she said, her voice steady. "But I think it is time for you all to go home. There is no party, there is nothing to celebrate here tonight." The guests didn't argue. There was a murmur of agreement, the shuffling of feet, the zip of coats being fastened. People were eager to leave. The atmosphere was toxic. My cousin Sarah stopped by the sofa on her way out. She squeezed my shoulder. "I had no idea, Clara," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, call me next week." I nodded numb. Within 10 minutes the lodge was empty, the music was off. The caterers were packing up the food in the kitchen, trying to be invisible. It was just us, the broken family. My mother stopped crying. Now that the audience was gone, her face hardened. She turned on Grandma. "Are you happy now, Mother?" she spat. "You humiliated us. You humiliated Tyler in front of the whole town. Who is going to hire him now? Who is going to invest in his businesses?" "Hopefully no one," Grandma said calmly. "So he can finally learn to work for a living." "He is your grandson," Dad yelled. "You're supposed to support family." "I am supporting family," Grandma said. She walked over to the sofa and placed a hand on my shoulder. "I am supporting the only person in this room who has never asked me for a dime. I am supporting the woman you left out in the snow." The line was drawn. It was 3 against 2. But Grandma held all the cards. The clock on the mantel chimed 10 o'clock. The fire was dying down, turning to embers, casting long, spooky shadows across the room. "Everyone calm down," Dad said, trying to regain control. He poured himself a drink from the bar cart, his hand shaking. "We'll sort this out in the morning. Tyler made a mistake. We'll pay the pawn shop, get the silver back, and no one needs to know any more details. Let's just go to bed." "No," Grandma said. Dad froze, the glass halfway to his mouth. "Excuse me. No one is going to bed here," Grandma said. "Not you, not Linda. And certainly not Tyler." "It's Christmas Eve, Mom," Dad said, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. "What do you want us to do?" "I want you to leave," Grandma stated. The room went dead silent again. Even Benjamin stopped fidgeting. "Leave," Mom asked. "Leave the room. Leave the property," Grandma corrected. "You can't be serious," Tyler scoffed. "It's freezing outside, and this is our house." "Is it?" Grandma asked. She reached into her small velvet purse again. This time, she didn't pull out a phone or a receipt. She pulled out a folded document. It looked old. "I built this lodge with my husband 45 years ago," Grandma said. "When your father died," she looked at my dad, "I let you move in to help manage the upkeep. I let you pretend it was yours. I let you play the lord of the manor. But the deed, the title," she tapped the paper on the table. "My name is the only one on this deed. Mary E. Harrison, not Frank, not Linda, not Tyler." My father's face went pale. "Mom, you can't kick us out. We have nowhere to go." "You have a condo in the city," Grandma said. "The one you bought with the money you borrowed from the maintenance fund last year. I suggest you go there." "But it's 2 hours away," Mom shrieked. "It's Christmas Eve, it's snowing." Grandma's eyes flashed. "Oh, is it cold outside? Is it inconvenient to be turned away at the door on Christmas Eve?" She pointed at me. "You did it to her," Grandma said, her voice trembling with rage. "You looked your own daughter in the eye, you looked your 6-year-old grandson in the eye, and you told them to go home because of a fake capacity limit. You didn't care about the snow then, you didn't care about the cold then." "That was different," Mom cried. "Clara is tough, she can handle it." "And you are soft," Grandma said. "And that is the problem. You have been soft your whole lives, living off my hard work. Well, the free ride is over." She looked at the clock. "It is 10:05 p.m., she said. "I am giving you until midnight. Pack your essentials, get in your cars, and get off my land." "And if we don't," Tyler challenged, crossing his arms. He was trying to look tough, but he looked like a pouting child. "You going to call the cops on your own family?" Grandma looked at him with pure disappointment. "I already called them," she said. Tyler's jaw dropped. "I reported a theft," Grandma said calmly. "Grand larceny, $50,000. The police are on their way to collect the pawn ticket and take a statement. If you're still here when they arrive, Tyler, you can explain to them why you stole from an elderly woman. Tyler didn't wait. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a ghost. He didn't pack a bag. He didn't say goodbye. He grabbed his keys off the table and bolted for the door. We heard his truck start up outside and peel out of the driveway, tires spinning on the ice. He ran like the coward he was. My parents stood there stunned. Their golden boy had abandoned them without a backward glance. He left us, Mom whispered. He always does, I said. He only stays when there's money on the table. Dad looked at Grandma, then at me. He looked broken. Mom. Please, midnight, Grandma said. She turned her back on them and sat down next to me. Clara, would you like some hot cocoa? My parents stood there for another minute, waiting for her to crack. Waiting for the forgiveness that had always come before. But Grandma just stroked Benjamin's hair and ignored them. Finally, they moved. I heard them running upstairs. I heard suitcases being dragged across the floor. I heard shouting. By 11:45 p.m., they were back downstairs. They were bundled in their coats, dragging designer luggage. Mom stopped at the door. She looked at me. I hope you're happy, Clara. You tore this family apart. I looked at her. I felt sad, yes, but I didn't feel guilty, not anymore. I didn't tear it apart, Mom, I said quietly. I just stopped holding it together for you. She sneered and walked out. Dad followed her, head down. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind them. The sound of their engine faded into the distance. Grandma let out a long, heavy sigh. She slumped slightly against the sofa cushions, the energy draining out of her. Are you okay, Grandma? I asked, taking her hand. Her skin felt paper-thin. I am tired, Clara, she whispered. I have been tired for a very long time. I waited too long to do that. You did it today, I said. That's what matters. I did it for you, she said. And for him. She nodded at Benjamin, who had fallen asleep with his head in my lap. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet, she said, sitting up straighter. We have business to discuss. Grandma Mary didn't want to wait until morning. She said the adrenaline was keeping her awake, and she needed to make things right before she could rest. She led me into her study, a room I was rarely allowed in growing up. It smelled of old books and cedar wood. She sat behind the massive mahogany desk and pulled out a leather binder. My will, she said. I sat in the guest chair, feeling out of place. Grandma, you don't need to talk about this. You're going to live forever. She chuckled dryly. I'm 82, Clara, and tonight took 5 years off my life. We need to be practical. She opened the binder. I saw red ink marks all over the pages. For years, she said, this will divided everything into 3 parts, one for your father, one for Tyler, one for you. Equal shares. She looked up at me. I thought that was fair. I thought if I treated everyone equally, they would act equally decent. It was generous, I said. It was foolish, she corrected. Tonight showed me the truth. If I leave this lodge to your father, he will mortgage it to pay Tyler's debts. If I leave it to Tyler, he will sell it within a month and blow the money on fast cars. And if I leave you a third, they will bully you out of it. They will force you to sell your share to them. I knew she was right. They had bullied me my whole life. They would never let me be a partner. Grandma took a pen. She crossed out a huge section of the text with a firm, dark line. I am calling my lawyer first thing tomorrow morning, she said, but I am telling you now so there are no secrets. She looked me dead in the eye. I am leaving it all to you, Clara. The Lakeside Lodge, the 50 acres of land, my investment portfolio, the savings accounts, everything. My mouth fell open. Grandma, no you can't, that's millions of dollars. They will hate me. They will say I manipulated you. Let them talk, she said sharply. They already hate you, Clara. They hate you because you shine a light on their failures. Giving them money won't make them love you. It will just give them more ammunition to hurt you. But it's too much, I stammered. I don't deserve it. You are the only one who deserves it. Grandma slammed her hand on the desk. Who built a business from nothing, you who pays her own bills, you who raised that beautiful boy without help, you who came back tonight, even after being humiliated just because her grandmother asked. She pointed the pen at me. This lodge is a business, Clara. It needs a manager. It needs someone who knows how to work. Your mother treated it like a palace for her ego. Your father treated it like an ATM. You will treat it like a home and a business. Mom said. I hesitated. Mom said, she's just Clara. She thinks I'm nobody. Grandma's expression softened. She reached across the desk and took my hand. She said she's just Clara as an insult, Grandma whispered. But she is wrong. You are Clara. You are the rock. You are the only one who acted like family. Being just Clara is the best thing you can be. She closed the binder with a final thud. It is decided. You are the heir. Now I have one condition. Anything, I said. You have to move in, she said. I'm too old to live in this big house alone, and I refuse to live with them ever again. I want you and Benjamin here. I want to hear running feet in the hallway. I want to smell your cooking in the kitchen. I want this place to be alive again. Tears welled up in my eyes. I had spent my whole life standing on the outside of this house, looking in, wishing I belonged. And now, the woman who built it was handing me the keys. Yes, I said, wiping my cheeks. Yes, Grandma will move in tomorrow. She smiled, a genuine, tired smile. Good, now help me up, it's past midnight. Merry Christmas, Clara. Merry Christmas, Grandma. The smell of pine and roasting garlic filled the air. It was Christmas Eve again. I stood in the center of the Lakeside Lodge's ballroom, adjusting a centerpiece made of holly and white roses. The room looked different than it had a year ago. The dark, heavy curtains were gone, replaced by sheer linen that let the winter light pour in. The stuffy, pretentious vibe was gone. Now the lodge felt warm, welcoming. Mom. Look, Benjamin came running across the polished floor, sliding in his socks. He was 7 now, taller, with a missing front tooth. He was holding a giant gingerbread man. Grandma let me put on the gumdrop buttons, he cheered. It looks delicious, I laughed, wiping a smudge of flour off his nose. Where is Grandma? In the kitchen, bossing the chef around, a deep voice said from behind me. I turned to see John smiling at me. John was the new head of groundskeeping I had hired 6 months ago. He was kind, quiet, and strong. And unlike the men in my past, he listened when I spoke. We had been dating for 3 months. It was slow, it was simple, and it was wonderful. She told the chef his gravy was lacking soul. John laughed, handing me a cup of hot cider. That sounds like her, I smiled, taking the cup. I looked around the room. In an hour, the doors would open. But this wasn't a private party for snobs anymore. I had turned the annual Christmas Eve bash into a community charity gala. We were raising money for the local children's shelter. The capacity limit was determined by fire code, not by social status. Everyone was welcome. I walked over to the window and looked out at the snow. A lot had changed in 365 days. The eviction had stuck. My parents had tried to fight it for a few weeks, sending angry emails and threatening legal action. But Grandma's lawyer was ruthless. Once they realized the money tap was truly shut off, they retreated. They were living in a 2-bedroom apartment near the city now. From what I heard through cousin Sarah, it wasn't a happy home. They spent their days arguing about money and blaming each other for losing the inheritance. They called me once in a while, usually when they needed something. I had learned to not answer. Tyler was in worse shape. The police had followed up on the pawn shop ticket. He was charged with grand larceny. Because it was a first offense and Grandma didn't want to see him rot in prison, she advocated for probation and restitution. He was currently working at a car wash, and 50% of his paycheck was garnished every month to pay Grandma back for the silver. He hated it. He hated me. But he was finally facing consequences, and that was the healthiest thing that could have happened to him. As for me, I was tired, but it was a good tired. Running the lodge was hard work. I was up at 5 a.m. most days. I managed the bookings, the staff, the renovations. But every dollar I earned was honest. Every decision I made was mine. I wasn't the shadow anymore. I wasn't the other child. I was the owner. I was the matriarch in training. Grandma Mary walked into the ballroom, leaning on her cane but moving with a spry energy she hadn't had last year. She was wearing a red velvet dress, the same color I had worn that night. Everything looks perfect, Clara, she said, nodding at the decorations. I learned from the best, I said. She came over and stood next to me by the window. We looked out at the driveway. It was empty right now, but soon it would be full of friends, neighbors, and people who actually wanted to be here. Do you miss them? Grandma asked quietly. I thought about it. I thought about the anxiety I used to feel in the pit of my stomach every time I pulled into this driveway. I thought about the desperate need for their approval. I thought about the cold wind on my face when my mother shut the door. I miss the idea of them, I admitted. I miss the parents I wanted them to be, but I don't miss who they actually are. I don't miss the pain. Good, Grandma said. Peace is better than pretense. Benjamin ran past us, chasing John, shrieking with laughter. The sound echoed off the high beams of the ceiling. This house wasn't a museum of stolen silver and family secrets anymore. It was a home. Ready to open the doors? Grandma asked. I took a deep breath. I felt steady. I felt strong. Yes, I said. Let everyone in. That night on the porch changed everything for me. But it wasn't because I inherited a lodge. It was because I finally stopped knocking. For 30 years, I stood outside my family's heart, begging to be let in. I thought if I knocked louder, if I brought better gifts, if I was smarter, prettier, more successful, they would finally unlock the door and say, "Welcome home, Clara." But the door wasn't locked because I was unworthy. It was locked because the people inside were broken. I know there are people reading this right now who are freezing on a porch somewhere. Maybe it's not Christmas Eve. Maybe it's a birthday they forgot. Maybe it's a wedding you weren't invited to. Maybe it's just a Tuesday phone call where they made you feel small. You are standing there, shivering, wondering what is wrong with you. You are wondering what you need to change to make them love you. I am here to tell you the truth. You cannot change the capacity of someone else's heart. If they don't have room for you, it's not because you are too big. It's because their world is too small. My mother told me there was a capacity limit. She was lying about the building, but she was telling the truth about herself. She didn't have the capacity to love a daughter she couldn't control. She didn't have the capacity to value a son she couldn't brag about. Stop freezing outside doors that will never open. It is scary to walk away. It is terrifying to turn around and walk back into the snow alone. You think you will die of the cold, but you won't. Because when you walk away from the people who hurt you, you start walking toward the people who will heal you. You find your Grandma Marys. You find your Johns. You find the strength to build your own fire. And let me tell you, the fire you build yourself, it burns warmer and brighter than anything they could ever give you. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You are just in the wrong house. So pick up your dignity, squeeze your child's hand, turn around, and don't look back. When you leave toxic people behind, the only thing you lose is pain. And what you gain is everything. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever had to walk away from family to save yourself, please like this video and subscribe. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I read every single one. You are not alone.